At the moment, we're in the week following the holiday of Shavuos, so we're kind of supposed to keep the theme of Shavuos going. And the theme of Shavuos is the giving of the Torah. And we're told that every Yom Tov is a 7-day affair. So Pesach is clearly 7 days. And Sukkot is clearly 7 days. And then there's an additional Yom Tov that follows, which has its own name and its own theme, Shmini Atzeres. But the holiday of Shavuos, you don't see it necessarily as being a 7-day Yom Tov. But you may have noticed that we're not saying Tachnun at the moment. And the reason we don't say Tachnun at the moment is because we're in the process now that is called the 7 days of Tashlumin. Tashlumin basically means you can catch up whatever you missed at Shavuos. So for example, in practical terms, what it meant was in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, if you didn't have the opportunity to bring your sacrifices that you were due to bring on the Yom Tov, you had these 7 days to catch up. But I recently heard that, I can't remember the source, but I recently heard that somebody pointed out that there's a mitzvah, Chayev Adam lahakbil pnei Rabbi b'moyed. The Gemara tells us that in the old days you used to have to go to the Beis HaMikdash. That's mandated by the Torah 3 times a year. The Shalosh Regalim, the 3 pilgrimage festivals, you had to go to Jerusalem and you had to see Hashem and allow Hashem, so to speak, to see you. In the absence of the Beis HaMikdash, the Gemara tells us that you're responsible to go to your Rebbe for Yom Tov. So today I heard somebody say that if you did not get to your Rebbe on Yom Tov itself, you've got this week. This whole week you can catch up. This is the Shivas Yemei Tashlumin, the 7 days of catching up, whatever it might be that we missed over the holiday of Shavuos. Now the word Tashlum, right, in Hebrew means to pay. So in other words, if you've got a debt, something you did not complete on the holiday of Shavuos, so Tashlum, you can pay up, you can still settle your debt during this week. The root of the word, though, is also related to the word not just shalem, which means to pay, but shalem, which means complete. That means to say that even if you did what you were supposed to do on Shavuos, you went to, you didn't go to shul, that wasn't an option, but you stayed up and you learned something and you read the 10 Commandments and of course you fulfilled the mitzvah of eating cheesecake or whatever it is that you did. So you did Shavuos. The goal of this week is that you can lahashlim, you can even take it further, you can take it to a high level, you can bring it to a level of completion that you hadn't previously achieved. So the Yom Tov's not over. We have until the end of tomorrow to upgrade it to an even higher state, an even higher level, which is quite a thing. It's quite an opportunity. So what does that mean, tachlis? It's all very nice in theory, right? So you tell somebody you've got the opportunity and you can raise it. What does it actually mean? So it's interesting that the way the Yom Tov fell out this year is that tomorrow will be the last day of Tashlumin, Thursday will be the last day of Tashlumin, and then just shortly after that, obviously from Thursday, you go into preparing for Shabbos, and then you have Shabbos. So some years the Shabbos is not necessarily at the end of the 7-day period. It might be a shorter gap. Shabbos could be a few days after. Now the Shabbos that we're going to come into, this Shabbos is Parashas Nosoi. Nosoi gets its name from the beginning of the parasha where Hashem tells Moshe, Nosoi es Rosh, which literally means you should count. It's talking about the family of the Levites, the Levi family, that they had to be counted separately from the rest of the nation. There was a census of the whole nation already in last week's parasha, 2 weeks ago, parasha Bamidbar. And now there's a unique counting specifically for the tribe of Levi. But what's interesting about it is that the words to introduce the census are Nosoi es Rosh, which actually means lift their heads. Lift their heads. That's the theme of this parasha. Lift your head. Now, in today's circumstances, if somebody had to tell you to lift your head and keep your chin up, it would be good advice because it's very easy to get down and depressed and despondent and worried and insecure. So lift your head actually sounds like good advice. But in the context of coming from the holiday of Shavuos, when you get told to lift your head, it actually means something a little different. Because Shavuos is a holiday, it's a Yom Tov that has a specific connection to our heads. For an obvious reason. It's the holiday of giving the Torah. And needless to say, giving the Torah is to allow us the opportunity to connect to Hashem using our heads. Right? Not just because, for example, you put tefillin on your head, which is one way to connect your head to Hashem, but your brain, your mind, the way you connect your brain and mind to Hashem is specifically through learning Torah. Now that places that experience of connection in a category of its own. Every single time we do a mitzvah, we connect to Hashem. That's the nature of a mitzvah. In fact, the word mitzvah is related to the word of connection, binding people together. Tzavsa v'chibur, as we say in the language of Hasidus, which is effectively an Aramaic word, tzavsa v'chibur. But even in modern Hebrew, next time you fly, please God, speedily in our days, and you go on an El Al flight, so they introduce what is called the tzevet. The tzevet is the crew, a group of people who work together. They collaborate in order to do a particular thing, in order to achieve a particular purpose. So tzevet is the same root as the word mitzvah. So every single mitzvah is a means of connection between us and Hashem. And more specifically, whichever part of us we use to do the mitzvah, that part of us is connected to Hashem at that time. So right now you're wearing tefillin and a talis. So what you've got is you've got your arm connected to Hashem, you've got your head connected to Hashem. The talis actually surrounds your whole body. That's why your talis is supposed to be long enough that it covers most of your body. So the whole of you is encompassed and connected to Hashem. But when you remove the talis and when you remove the tefillin, that connection is temporarily suspended until the next time that you put on talis and tefillin. Even though, of course, spiritual things don't stop. As the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, he says, what you achieve in terms of connection between you and Hashem when you do a mitzvah, although in the physical experience is limited only to the time in which you're doing the mitzvah, in the spiritual experience it lasts forever. So that's why after a neshama leaves this world, it's got all of those mitzvahs that have accumulated to form these bonds of connection between us and Hashem. There's a significant difference, though, when you connect to Hashem using your mind, which is what we do through learning Torah. Significant difference. What's the difference? Well, you'll know from your own experience that when you learn something and you truly understand it, not just, unfortunately, some people confuse learning Torah with saying Tehillim, just like say the words. Okay, I finished that book, bring me the next book. But in fact, the way that we're supposed to learn Torah is that it's supposed to be so engaging that the information becomes part of us. Not just something that I know, but it's actually part of me. And that's why we're told that the Torah is compared, yes, we all know that the Torah is compared to water, but the Torah is also compared to bread. Lechu lachmu belachmi, Hashem says. Go and eat my bread to satiate yourself. Why? Because when you eat food, the food becomes part of you. It gets absorbed into your system, the nutrients become part of your blood flow, and now the food is part of you. So that's how it is when you learn Torah as well. The objective of learning Torah is not to see how many volumes of Gemara have I gotten through, or how many books can I say I've read from cover to cover. That's actually irrelevant. What's most relevant is how much of the Torah got into me. People often say, thank God I've finished a particular Gemara. Well, that's actually irrelevant. The question is not how much have you learned, the question is how much did the Gemara teach you? How much has it gotten into your head? And for that reason, we're told that the relationship that we create between us and Hashem when we learn Torah is a very personal and intimate connection. So when you put on tefillin, for example, it might leave marks on your arm for the rest of the day. But, once those marks disappear, nobody's going to walk past you and see, wow, there's a glow of tefillin on your arm. Unless they're a very great tzaddik, maybe they can perceive these things. But when a person has Torah in their thinking, then actually people can identify, wow, you think differently. You see things differently. So the objective of Torah is that we should digest the information, we should absorb the information, we should own the information to the extent that, as the sages call it, HaTorah nikres al shemoi, to the extent that it almost becomes like your possession. The Torah is attributed to you. People don't even necessarily understand that there's a distinction between you and the Torah knowledge. They see you as a conduit of Hashem's knowledge. So the mitzvah, it's not the mitzvah, the experience of Torah, which we were given at the holiday of Shavuos, is really an invitation to have a connection to Hashem that is an incredibly unique connection. So to whatever extent we did that on Shavuos, we said, okay, I'm in. I'm going to do this. This year I'm going to learn more. Or even over the course of Shavuos, I decided I'm going to learn something. Now we have tashlumin. We have the opportunity, lehashlim, to make that even more complete, even more solidified. Very often, you know how it is, we make resolutions, but resolutions are pretty much often just that. It was a nice thing to talk about. It was a nice thought. So on Shavuos, we're supposed to make some kind of resolution of commitment to Torah. This is the week to solidify and consolidate. And even if I didn't make that resolution, now's a good time. I could still chaperein. But more specifically, we go straight from this into Nosoi es roish. You're supposed to lift your head. That means not just to engage your head in learning Torah, because there are many people out there who learn Torah and learn Torah on a regular basis. And, we get into our habits as we are. We're creatures of habits. So we get into our routines, and this is the Torah that I learn, and this is how much I do, and I'll add my little bit. I'll have my so-called resolution for this year, so I'm going to add a little bit more, whatever. Nasoyas roish means I've got to literally take it up a notch, lift my game a little bit. Meaning to say, maybe I should explore an area of Torah that I haven't yet explored, or that isn't necessarily that interesting to me, because we all tend to orbit around subjects that are naturally interesting to us. Or it could be to take something I've already learned before and upgrade it. Okay, so I know this concept. Maybe there's another layer, maybe there's another level of depth that I have not yet explored, that I could now explore. And that's basically what we should be doing at this time. Now, in Kabbalistic literature, they say, Nasoyas roish, how do you lift yourself? What does it mean you lift yourself? So the simple explanation is to say, listen, I'm going to learn more, or I'm going to learn deeper, or I'm going to review something, or whatever. So Nasoyas roish, how does a person lift their head? The Kabbalists tell us through oineg. Oineg means when you have a deep pleasure in the experience. In other words, there's two ways to learn Torah. The one way is, I've got to do it. It's part of being Jewish. I've made a commitment. I've got to learn Torah. There's X amount of books to get through. There's daily learning that I'm supposed to do. I should learn the parasha of the week every day, a portion of the parasha. I should learn some Tanya every day. I should learn some Rambam every day, or whatever the particular case is. There's certain things that I have to do. So I get through it in the language of the prophet Yeshaya, mitzvahs anoshim melumada. We do these things by rote. But how does a person lift their mind? How do you lift the experience of learning Torah? That is through oineg. To actually get our teeth, sink our teeth into a piece of Torah to the point that it actually becomes a pleasurable experience. Now that might sound a little bit far-fetched until you've done it. But anybody who's really worked through a piece of Torah, whatever it is, it could be a whole book of Gemara, or it could be one little section of something in Judaism. But you apply your mind, and you discuss it, and you research it, and you debate it even with the people around your own table at home, at the dinner table. What do we talk about at the dinner table? Probably more coronavirus statistics and whether the shul should open and how America is burning. That's pretty much what everybody's talking about. So you talk about something that you learned, and you actually discuss it, and you bring it to life. It starts to become pleasurable. It actually becomes geschmack, as we say in the classics. And that's nasoyas roish. The more somebody enjoys something, the more likely it is that they will give it time and attention, and the more likely it is that they will actually delve into it, because once you begin to enjoy something, it attracts you and it draws you in. And that's really what we're supposed to try and do during the course of this week, is to find something within Torah that gives us that sense of geschmack, that we actually enjoy the engagement. Might be difficult at first because it takes a little bit of manual start, kind of like everybody's car batteries, often barely being used for the last couple of weeks. So, but once it gets started, then it's really something special, and it really lifts us, and please God, makes our whole life a more uplifted way of living.